England, barely the size of a Midwestern US state, has done exactly that. From the mysterious stones of ancient druids to the smokestacks of the Industrial Revolution, from Shakespeare's words to the roar of Spitfires in the skies of World War II, the story of England is the story of how a nation of farmers, warriors, and dreamers built an empire that once spanned a quarter of the planet. This is no quiet history. It's a tale of invasions and rebellions, of kings who defied the church, of commoners who defied kings. It is a journey through fire and steel, through plague and progress, 1,000 years of struggle and brilliance that still echoes in the modern world. And it all began long before the idea of England even existed. Travel back to a time when the island was a land of tribes and mystery, and Rome's legions first cast their gaze across the Channel. Long before the word England existed, this island was a raw and restless frontier. 12,000 years ago, as the Ice Age retreated, hunter-gatherers crossed land bridges from the continent, chasing herds through dense forests and along windswept coasts. Over centuries, scattered tribes carved their presence into the landscape, none more mysterious than the builders of Stonehenge. Even today, those colossal stones, aligned with the solstice sun, whisper of rituals and beliefs lost to time. By the Iron Age, Celtic tribes known as the Britons dominated the island, weaving a patchwork of hill forts and warrior chieftains. But in 55 BCE, distant powers turned their gaze here. Julius Caesar crossed the Channel with his legions, testing Britain's resolve before retreating. It was a warning of what was to come. Nearly a century later, in 43 CE, Emperor Claudius launched a full-scale invasion. Roman legions carved roads through forests, founded walled towns like Londinium, and imposed Roman law, baths, and markets. The island's wild heart began to beat to a Roman rhythm, yet rebellion simmered. In 60 CE, Queen Boudica of the Iceni led a fiery uprising, torching Roman settlements and nearly expelling the occupiers. Rome crushed the revolt, but not the island's spirit. To guard their northern frontier, the Romans raised Hadrian's Wall across the width of Britain, a stone scar still visible today. For nearly 4 centuries, Roman Britain thrived, a blend of native and imperial cultures. But empires weakened. By the early 5th century, Rome's armies were stretched thin. The legions withdrew, leaving behind roads and ruins and a vulnerable island. And across the North Sea, new waves of warriors, the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes, were already preparing to claim the abandoned land. With Rome's legions gone, Britain became an open invitation to invaders. From across the North Sea, seafaring tribes, the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes, began to land on its shores in the early 5th century. What started as hired mercenaries to protect local tribes soon turned into conquest. Gradually, they pushed the native Britons west into the rugged lands of Wales and Cornwall, carving the island into a patchwork of new Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. These kingdoms, Wessex, Mercia, Northumbria, and others, brought their own language, customs, and pagan gods. Old Roman towns decayed, while wooden halls and village life flourished. Out of this cultural melting pot, the seeds of the English language were sown. Words we speak today still carry the echo of Saxon speech. Yet unity was fragile. In the late 8th century, a new terror arrived: the Vikings. Sleek longships glided up rivers like silent predators, their warriors plundering monasteries and towns. By the mid-9th century, vast areas of eastern England, the Danelaw, were under Viking control. Against this storm rose Alfred the Great, King of Wessex. Through strategy and resilience, he held back the Norse tide and forged a sense of English identity. His reforms, from fortified towns to a legal code, laid the groundwork for a united realm. Over the next century, his successors strengthened this unity, creating the first kingdom truly worthy of the name England. But peace never lasted long. In 1066, a distant duke across the Channel cast his eyes on England's throne. William of Normandy, claiming royal blood, prepared an invasion that would change the island forever. And as the winds of destiny shifted over the English Channel, the fate of England and all of Europe hung in the balance. The year 1066 changed England forever. On the field of Hastings, William, Duke of Normandy, defeated King Harold's army and claimed the English crown. His victory was more than a battle won. It was a cultural earthquake. The Normans imposed a new ruling class, building stone castles like the Tower of London to secure their power. The Domesday Book, a vast survey of England's lands and wealth, revealed a kingdom now ruled by French-speaking nobles, while the common people clung to their Anglo-Saxon tongue. Over time, these two languages fused, giving birth to the rich vocabulary of modern English. The centuries that followed were marked by struggle and transformation. Kings wrestled with their barons for control, leading to the signing of the Magna Carta in 1215, a document that limited royal power and planted the earliest seeds of constitutional government. England's ambitions stretched across the Channel in the Hundred Years' War, 1337 to 1453. A brutal conflict with France that forged national identity but drained the treasury. Meanwhile, catastrophe struck at home. The Black Death, 1347 to 1351, wiped out nearly half the population, reshaping society and labor forever. As the Middle Ages waned, a bitter family feud erupted. The Wars of the Roses, the rival houses of Lancaster and York, plunged the kingdom into decades of civil war, with shifting alliances and sudden betrayals. The blood-soaked conflict ended in 1485, when Henry Tudor seized the crown at the Battle of Bosworth. Out of the chaos rose a new dynasty, the Tudors, whose reign would ignite religious upheaval, cultural brilliance, and an era of exploration that would carry England onto the world stage. The year 1485 crowned a new beginning. At Bosworth Field, Henry Tudor became Henry VII, ending the Wars of the Roses and uniting the houses of Lancaster and York. With his marriage to Elizabeth of York, the red and white roses merged into the Tudor rose, a symbol of hard-won unity. His son, Henry VIII, would shatter that unity in another way. Desiring an heir and defying the Pope, Henry broke from the Catholic Church, founding the Church of England in the 1530s. Monasteries were dissolved, their riches seized, and religious tension ignited across the realm. The Reformation would shape English faith and politics for centuries. After Henry's death, his heirs struggled with the storm he left behind. Edward VI pushed Protestant reforms. Mary I sought to restore Catholicism with fire and fear, and then came Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, whose long reign stabilized the kingdom. Elizabeth's era became England's golden age. Theaters flourished under the genius of William Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe. Explorers like Francis Drake circled the globe, bringing wealth and wonder. In 1588, the defeat of the mighty Spanish Armada secured England's naval pride and safeguarded its Protestant future. By the time Elizabeth died in 1603, England had transformed, politically, religiously, and culturally. Yet the question of succession loomed large. The Tudor line ended with her, and across the border in Scotland waited a distant cousin, James VI, ready to unite the crowns. But with a new king came old tensions between monarchy and parliament, faith and power, tensions that would soon ignite England in civil war. When James VI of Scotland inherited the English crown in 1603, becoming James I of England, the two kingdoms shared a monarch for the first time, but unity brought tension. James and his son Charles first believed in the divine right of kings, while Parliament demanded a greater say in government. Religious divisions deepened the rift. England's Protestants, especially the Puritans, distrusted the Stuarts' sympathy for Catholic traditions. Disputes over money, faith, and authority finally erupted into the English Civil War, 1642 to 1651. On one side, the Royalists, loyal to the king. On the other, the Parliamentarians, led by the determined Oliver Cromwell. After years of bloody conflict, Parliament's forces captured Charles I. In 1649, he was tried and executed, the first English king to be put to death by his own people. England became a republic, the Commonwealth, ruled by Cromwell as Lord Protector. But after his death, the experiment collapsed. In 1660, the monarchy was restored under Charles II, bringing back both crown and the spirited culture of the Restoration. Yet the struggle between king and parliament was not over. When James II tried to reassert royal authority and promote Catholic allies, alarm swept the land. In the Glorious Revolution of 1688, James fled, and William of Orange and Mary II accepted the throne under a Bill of Rights that limited royal power and secured parliamentary supremacy. By 1714, with the death of Queen Anne and the arrival of the Hanoverian dynasty, England had transformed. The monarchy survived, but never again as absolute. Now, with its politics stabilized and its navy growing strong, England turned outward, ready to build an empire and lead the world into a new age of industry and global power. When George I, king from the German House of Hanover, ascended the throne in 1714, a new era began. He spoke little English and relied on ministers, which quietly shifted real political power to Parliament and gave birth to the modern role of the Prime Minister. England's merchants and navy seized the moment. Trade routes stretched across the Atlantic and into Asia, carrying tea, spices, and textiles. Colonies flourished from the Caribbean to India, and by the mid-18th century, England was at the heart of a global network of commerce and influence. But the true revolution brewed at home. Around 1760, inventors and entrepreneurs transformed the economy in what we now call the Industrial Revolution. Steam engines roared to life, spinning jennies and power looms turned villages into mill towns. Coal and iron fueled factories and railways. Cities such as Manchester, Birmingham, and Liverpool swelled almost overnight. This explosive growth brought both opportunity and hardship. While Britain grew richer, workers, including children, toiled long hours in dangerous conditions. Reformers campaigned for better labor laws, and social movements demanded political change, leading to the Great Reform Act of 1832 and later expansions of voting rights. Meanwhile, the empire reached astonishing heights. After defeating Napoleon in 1815, Britain became the world's dominant naval power, ruling territories on every continent. From the Raj in India to colonies in Africa and the Pacific, the sun truly never set on the British Empire. Yet beneath the grandeur, tensions simmered in Ireland, in the colonies, and within the new industrial cities themselves. As the 20th century dawned, England faced rising social unrest and the storm clouds of a coming world conflict. Next comes a century that will test England's power and resilience. 2 world wars, the decline of empire, and the birth of a modern nation. In 1914, the guns of World War I shattered the long Victorian peace. England, as part of the United Kingdom, joined its allies against the Central Powers. The nation's sons marched to the trenches of the Western Front, where mud and machine guns turned battlefields into graveyards. By the war's end in 1918, over 700,000 British soldiers were dead, and the empire, though victorious, was shaken to its core. The interwar years brought economic struggles and political shifts. Yet when World War II erupted in 1939, England again stood firm. Winston Churchill's stirring speeches steeled the nation as the Blitz rained bombs over London in 1940-41. The Royal Air Force's triumph in the Battle of Britain saved the island from Nazi invasion and became a symbol of defiance. When the Allies celebrated victory in 1945, England emerged proud but exhausted. The post-war era marked the twilight of empire. Independence movements swept through India, 1947, Africa, and the Caribbean. The phrase, "the empire on which the sun never sets," became history. Domestically, the National Health Service was founded in 1948, reshaping social policy, while waves of immigration from former colonies transformed English culture and cities. Through the Cold War, England navigated a new world order as part of NATO and later the European Economic Community. In recent decades, debates over identity and sovereignty resurfaced, culminating in the historic Brexit vote of 2016, when Britain chose to leave the European Union. Today, in 2025, England stands as a modern nation forged by centuries of conquest, invention, and resilience. From medieval kings to industrial might, from the ashes of war to the challenges of a globalized world, its story is one of constant reinvention. If you enjoyed this journey through England's past, subscribe for more history videos like this.